You are watching The Silent Observer. Today, we are connecting the dots between a high-profile corporate trial in Europe and a massive public resistance breaking out right now in Maharashtra. If you want to see the global scandals that mainstream media refuses to talk about, make sure to subscribe. Let's get straight into the facts. In June 2025, an Italian court handed down a historic ruling. 11 corporate executives were sentenced to a combined 141 years in prison. Their crime? Knowingly unleashing an environmental disaster. For decades, their chemical factory Miteni leaked a toxic substance called PFAS into the local groundwater. It poisoned the drinking water of over 350,000 people and was linked to a tragic excess of nearly 4,000 deaths. The factory was shut down, bankrupt, and condemned. Justice was served in Europe. But the story didn't end there. The factory didn't die. Instead, it was systematically dismantled. More than 300 massive shipping containers packed with those exact same contaminated machines, patents, and toxic chemical blueprints were shipped across the ocean. Their destination: Lot Parshuram in Ratnagiri, Maharashtra. Today, a technology legally judged too dangerous and lethal for European citizens is fully operational on Indian soil, pumping out the exact same chemicals. How did this happen? Why is India welcoming industries that Europe literally throws in jail? And are developing nations being treated as nothing more than a toxic dumping ground for the West? Let's unpack the terrifying reality of forever chemicals. So let's move to the part 1. What is PFAS and why is it a forever threat? To understand the gravity of this move, we first need to look at what these factories actually make: PFAS, or per, and polyfluoroalkyl substances. In the consumer world, PFAS are praised as miracle chemicals. They repel water, resist grease, and withstand extreme heat. If you have a non-stick frying pan, a waterproof rain jacket, stain-resistant carpets, or even a microwave popcorn bag, you are using these forever chemicals. In the scientific community, they are named as forever chemicals. They are called forever chemicals because they contain exceptionally strong carbon-fluorine bonds that make them nearly indestructible. Because of this, they do not break down in the environment or inside the human body, persisting for decades or even thousands of years while accumulating in living organisms. Even worse, they enter our bodies through food and drinking water. They stick to human blood and organs, a process called bioaccumulation. Decades of medical research have directly linked prolonged PFAS exposure to liver damage, immune system failure, thyroid disruption, developmental issues in newborn babies, and aggressive forms of kidney and testicular cancer. Part 2. The double standards of Western world. Because the science is undeniable, the Western world is panicking. The US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the European Union are setting brutally strict near-zero limits on PFAS in drinking water. Europe is actively debating a blanket ban on thousands of these chemical variations. They exploit a global double standard known as environmental racism or toxic colonialism. Western nations implement strict laws to protect their citizens, but instead of inventing safer chemical alternatives, industries simply shift their dirtiest, most hazardous production units to the global south, to third world countries and developing nations. Why? Because environmental regulations in these areas are often decades behind, labor is cheap, and enforcement is lax. They gamble on the reality that a poor person's health in a developing nation will draw less legal scrutiny than a wealthy person's health in Europe. And that brings us to the shocking case of Italy and India. Now let's move to the third part. The Ghost Factory, the Miteni to India scandal. Operating from 1965 to 2018, the Miteni chemical plant operated in the Veneto region of northern Italy. By the 2010s, Italian authorities realized the factory had caused a full-scale health crisis, leaving behind an intensely contaminated regional aquifer. Local residents were found to have alarmingly high hazardous levels of forever chemicals flowing directly through their veins. By 2018, the plant was forced into bankruptcy and permanently shuttered. But while Italian prosecutors were busy building a criminal case to put the executives in prison, a public bankruptcy auction was quietly held in 2019. An Indian chemical giant, Lakshmi Organic Industries, bought Miteni's entire asset portfolio their patents, their chemical formulas, and their actual hardware for around 4 million euros. But independent environmentalists are asking a glaring question. If this chemical manufacturing process is fundamentally safe, why did it require a 141-year prison sentence for the people running it in Europe? Are Indian citizens somehow biologically immune to the very same toxins that poisoned an entire European region, or is this simply the outsourced price of doing business? Let's move on to our next part. Part 4. The Indian Resistance and Missing Laws. When the local communities in Maharashtra found out what kind of factory had been built next to their villages, public outrage erupted. On April 6, 2026, thousands of local residents, farmers, and environmental activists marched in a massive protest through the Lot Parshuram industrial zone. Activists like Ashok Jadhav and Rajendra Ambre launched hunger strikes, completely blocking traffic on the critical Mumbai-Goa National Highway. Local leaders openly condemned politicians and pollution boards for giving the plant a green light. The backlash was so severe that it reached the halls of India's parliament. The government's formal response exposed a terrifying truth. India has zero specific environmental regulations banning or restricting PFAS manufacturing. While the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board launched a routine probe, and ministers promised an expert committee would look into it, the core issue remains a legal black hole, as India lacks clear, codified limits on forever chemicals. What Lakshmi Organic is doing isn't legally classified as a crime inside the country, even though the exact same setup was treated as a major corporate crime in Italy. Indian grassroots groups are now partnering with European lawmakers to take their fight directly to the European Commission in Brussels, demanding an end to this deadly double standard. They are pushing for new international laws that force multinational corporations to respect human health everywhere. After all, a person's right to clean water and safe soil should not depend on their geography. It is time to close the legal loopholes that allow Western profits to be built on Eastern pollution. This isn't just a story about one factory in Maharashtra. It is a warning sign of a dangerous global trend. If a technology is too toxic to exist in a wealthy nation, shifting it to a developing country doesn't fix the problem, it just changes the victims. India cannot afford to become the world's chemical rug under which Western nations sweep their toxic waste. India needs strict, immediate regulations on PFAS before our own groundwater is permanently ruined. True progress cannot be built on poisoned soil. Environmental justice must not stop at national borders. If we do not act now, the cost of tomorrow's cleanup will be measured in human lives. It is time to close the gates before the damage becomes irreversible. What do you think about this shift? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video to spread awareness. And don't forget to hit subscribe. Here at The Silent Observer, our platform exists to amplify the global issues that matter most. We dedicate ourselves to uncovering the critical topics that demand immediate, worldwide attention. If you are deeply concerned about a crisis unfolding in your own country, please let me know. I would love to raise awareness and give it a voice. Stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.